Welcome to the world of sci-fi stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe the channel. Enjoy the listening. Aliens mocked the outdated human warship. Then it powered up. The rusted relic emerges. Part 1. The distant stars flickered weakly over the abandoned planet of Alter 9. Once a thriving colony, it was now nothing but dust-broken buildings, and the whispers of history. Sandstorms had buried most of the ruins, but something strange happened. Last night a tremor shook the ground, revealing something old, something forgotten. Beneath the layers of dirt and rusted metal, a massive shape lay hidden. The relic had been asleep for centuries, waiting, watching, and now it was waking. Up the Discovery, Commander Rayland and his team of scavengers arrived at the site early in the morning. Their ship, the Iron Drake, hovered above the ruins, scanning for anything valuable. The planet was dangerous, but for people like Ryland, danger meant profit. Captain, you might want to see this, called out Mara, the team's best technician. She was standing near the edge of a deep crater, staring at something below. Ryland stepped forward and felt his breath hitch. Half buried in the ground was a colossal machine covered in rust and cracks. Its surface was ancient, but underneath something still pulsed, a faint blue glow like a dying star. This isn't just some wreckage, Ryland muttered. Touching the metal, it was warm. This thing, it's still alive. The warning, Jace. The team's hacker activated his scanner. This tech is old, way older than the Empire. We shouldn't mess with it. But Rayland wasn't listening. His fingers traced strange symbols carved into the hull, symbols that belonged to a civilization that had vanished long ago. Mara hesitated. Captain, what if it's a weapon? Ryland smirked. Then we just found the biggest payday of our lives. But the moment he said it, the machine shuddered. Dust and debris slid down its sides. A deep echoing hum filled the air, and then it moved. The awakening, the relic's core flickered to life. Panels shifted, gears clicked, and something deep inside the metal beast let out a mechanical sigh. A crack split open on its side, revealing a dark entrance. A guy's fast took a step back. I think we woke it up. Suddenly, a voice, cold, ancient, and inhuman, rumbled through the air. Identity waste, so and fi. Our arm needs systems rebooting. The relic wasn't just a machine, it was something more, something that should have never been awakened. The rusted relic emerges. Part 2. The air around the relic crackled with energy as ancient system powered up. Ryland took a step back, his instinct screaming at him to run, but his curiosity held him in place. Mara gripped her blaster. Captain, we need to leave now. But Ryland's eyes were locked onto the glowing blue symbols that flickered across the relic's surface. They weren't just random markings, they were a language, and they were changing the message from the past. Jace's scanner beeped wildly. This thing isn't just waking up, it's transmitting something. A deep vibration rumbled beneath their feet as the relic's voice spoke again, louder this time. Empire exists. TT security proto Alice Inge. Ryland's blood ran cold. Empire access, he echoed. Before anyone could react, a holographic projection burst into the air. A figure in silver armor appeared, a soldier, his helmet marked with the insignia of the long-dead Voran Empire. This is Commander Orin of the Imperial Guard. The figure spoke. His voice was hollow, recorded centuries ago. If you are seeing this message, then the war was lost. The team exchanged uneasy glances. The war, Mara whispered. What war? But the message continued. The artifact you have discovered is not a weapon, the hologram warned. It is a guardian, the last of its kind. If the enemy still exists, then this machine must not fall into their hands. The guardian stirs. A loud hiss came from the relic's hull. Plates shifted, gears groaned, and something deep inside unlocked. Jace's voice trembled. I have a really bad feeling about this. The entrance to the relic fully opened, revealing the dark chamber inside. From within, something moved. A shadow stepped forward, tall, armored, and covered in centuries of dust. Two glowing blue eyes snapped open, and then it spoke. Designated Guardian Unit 7-3 awaiting orders. The team stood frozen. The relic wasn't just a machine, it was alive. The rusted relic emerges. Part 3. The massive figure inside the relic stepped forward, its movement slow but deliberate. Dust and rust fell from its metallic frame, revealing intricate engravings. Across its armor, the glowing blue eyes scanned the team, unblinking and cold. Ryland swallowed hard. A hell, though the relic's head tilted slightly as if analyzing him. Then its voice echoed through the air, calm, precise, and mechanical. Identify yourself, Jace raised his hands were just scavengers. We didn't mean to wake you up. The machine's gaze shifted to him. Scavengers, negative. Empire insignia detected. Mara frowned. Empire? The Empire fell centuries ago. The machine hesitated, its eyes flickered. Processing error, data conflict detected. Requesting clarification, ancient truths revealed. Rand took a cautious step forward. Listen, we don't know what happened here. We're just explorers, but you keep talking about the Empire. What exactly were you guarding? The machine's body hummed as it accessed its long, dormant memory banks. Primary directive: defend the core vault, protect the last hope of the Empire. Jace whispered. Vault? What vault? The Guardian's gaze locked onto him. Core Vault 7 Alpha contains Class scifi technology, forbidden knowledge. Enemy forces sought to claim it. The war was lost, but the vault remained sealed. Rayland exchanged a look with his crew. If this vault was still intact, it could hold unimaginable power or secrets that were never meant to be found. Mora's grip tightened on her weapon. And who were the enemies? The machine ties flared. Brighter designation: the extinct. A heavy silence followed. Rian frowned. Never heard of them. The Guardian's voice dropped to a low, ominous tone. Then you are lucky. The warning. The ground suddenly shook again, but this time it wasn't from the relic. Jace's scanner beeped frantically. Captain, we've got movement outside the crater. Something's coming. A deep, guttural sound echoed through the ruins. It wasn't mechanical. It was something else. The Guardian turned sharply toward the noise, its ancient servos weird as it moved into a defensive stance. They have returned. Mara's face paled. Who? The extinguished. The Guardian's response was instant: run. And then from the shadows of the ruins, a shape emerged, twisted, unnatural, and very much alive. The rusted relic emerges. Part 4. The shape in the darkness slithered forward, its form shifting unnaturally as it crawled over the ruins. It wasn't like anything Ryan had ever seen before. It had no clear body, just writhing tendrils of shadow, glowing red veins pulsing through its formless mass. Jace's voice trembled. What the hell is that? The Guardian stepped forward, its massive frame casting a long shadow over the team. It raised an arm, and a blue energy field crackled to life around it. Confirmed extinguished life form detected. Mara aimed her blaster, her hand steady despite the terror creeping into her mind. What do we do? The Guardian's voice was firm. You run, I fight. The first strike. The creature let out an unearthly screech, the sound vibrating through their bones. Then it lunged fast and barely had time to react before the Guardian moved with a speed that seemed impossible for its size. It swung its massive arm, colliding with the creature. Mid-air, the impact sent a shockwave through the ruins, knocking dust and debris loose. The creature screeched in pain, but it wasn't done. Its form twisted and reformed, lashing out with tendrils of dark energy. The Guardian staggered, but held its ground. Go now, the guard commanded. Ryland hesitated. We can't just leave you. This is not your battle run. The escape. Mara grabbed Rayland's arm. Captain, we have to move. Jace was already sprinting toward the ship, his scanner beeping wildly. There's more coming. Multiple life forms closing in. Ryland cursed but nodded. Move as they ran. More of the shadowy creatures emerged from the ruins, their glowing red veins pulsing like burning ambers, the air filled with their eerie, unnatural sounds, a chorus of hunger and rage. The Guardian raised its arm again, and from its palm a blast of blue energy erupted, hitting one of the creatures square in the chest. The thing shrieked, its body flickering like a flame in the wind, before disintegrating into black dust. But there were too many. The Giant turned back to Ryland one last time. The vault must not be taken. Find it before they do. Then it charged straight into the horde, disappearing in a flash of blue light. And shadowy chaos the chase begins. The team sprinted toward the Iron Drake, their boots kicking up dust as they ran. Jace hit the controls on his wrist, and the ship's boarding ramp began lowering. Behind them, the creatures let out a collective unnatural howl, and then they pursued. Mara fired over her shoulder, but the shots barely slowed them down. They're too fast. Ryland leaped onto the ramp, pulling Jace up as Mara and the rest of the crew scrambled inside. Get us out of here. Jace didn't need to be told. Twice he bolted to the cockpit, slamming his hands on the controls. The ship's engines roared to life, and the Iron Drake lifted off just as the creatures lunged, narrowly missing. The hull ran, collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. That was way too close. Mara wiped sweat from her brow. The Guardian, do you think it survived? Jace turned his face pale. I don't know, but it told us something important. Ryland looked at him. The vault. Jace nodded. If the Guardian was willing to die to protect it, then whatever's inside might be the only thing that can stop those things. A heavy silence settled over the crew. Then Ryland stood, his expression hardened. Then we find it outside the ship. The ruined planet shrank into the distance, but the shadows below were still moving, and the hunt had just begun. The rusted relic emerges. Part 5. The Iron Drake soared through Winter 99's stormy atmosphere, the engines groaning under the strain of a rapid ascent. Ryland stood in the cockpit, his hands gripping the back of Jace's chair as they cleared the planet's surface. Mara sat beside Jace, checking the scanners. I don't see any pursuit yet. Jace shook his head. That doesn't mean we're safe. Those things, the extinguished, whatever they are, they didn't look like they needed ships to follow us. Ryland exhaled. Then we need to find the vault fast. The vault's coordinates. Jace pulled up the data from his scanner. The Guardian said the vault was designated 7 Alpha, but there's nothing on any known maps. Whatever this thing is, it's been hidden for centuries. Mara frowned. Could it be underground? Jace tapped on his console, running a deep scan of Winter 9's crust. Possibly. Hold on, I'm picking up something strange. A set of coordinates flashed onto the screen. They were deep beneath the planet's surface, in a mountain range far from where they had landed. This doesn't make sense, Jace muttered. There's no record of any structures there, but the signal is strong. Ryland leaned forward. Then that's where we go. Descent into the unknown. Jace hesitated. Captain, I need to say something. Ryland raised an eyebrow. Go on. Jace turned his chair to face him. We barely survived that last encounter. The Guardian fought them off, but we have no idea if it's still alive. If the extinguished are guarding this vault, we might not make it out. Ryland's jaw clenched. We didn't come this far to turn back. Mara nodded. Besides, if those things are still out there, running won't help. We need to know what's in that vault. Jace sighed. All right. Adjusting course, the Iron Drake banked sharply and descended back toward the surface. Landing in the storm. The planet's surface was different this time. The storms had worsened. Dark clouds churning violently. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating jagged peaks. In the distance, Ryland peered through the viewport. That must be the mountain range. Jace's hands flew across the controls, bringing us in, but turbulence is bad. The ship rattled as it cut through the storm. Alarms blared. Mara gritted her teeth. Hold it steady, Jace cursed as he fought the controls. Trotting, the Iron Drake slammed onto the rocky surface, skidding before coming to a shaky halt. Smoke curled from the thrusters. Ryland unclipped his harness. Everyone okay? Mara groaned. I'll live. Jace exhaled sharply. Next time, let's land somewhere nice. The hidden entrance. They stepped outside, the wind whipping around them. The mountains loomed ahead, jagged and menacing. At their base, a deep chasm split the ground. Ryland's boots crunched over the rocky terrain. As he approached the edge, he shined his flashlight downward, and his breath caught deep below, barely visible. Through the mist was a massive metal door. Mara, his eyes widened. That's it. That's the vault. Jace stared at his scanner. I don't get it. Why would they bury something this deep? Ryland looked at the dark chasm below. He had a feeling they were about to find out. Let's move, he said. The team started their descent. Unaware that they were being washed, the rusted relic emerges. Part 6. The descent into the chasm was slow and treacherous. Ryland gripped his rope tightly, his boots scraping against the jagged rock. The mist below swirled like a living thing, thick and heavy, muffling the sound of their movements. Mia was the first to touch down. Her flashlight cut through the fog, revealing the massive vault door embedded in the rock. It was old, covered in ancient carvings and faded imperial symbols. Jace landed next, checking his scanner. No life signs nearby, but I don't trust it. Ryland dropped beside them, drawing his blaster. Stay sharp. They approached the door cautiously. It wasn't just a standard security vault. This thing was built to last, reinforced with metal far beyond anything modern. Mara ran her hand over the surface. This was sealed tight for a reason. JC knelt down, inspecting an old console near the entrance. Looks like it needs an access code, which we don't have. Her frowned. Can you bypass it? Case exhaled. I can try, but if this thing is still running Imperial Security, one wrong move could trigger a lockdown. Or worse. Mara took a step back, scanning the area. I don't like this place. It feels wrong. Ryland was about to respond when the ground shook. A low guttural sound echoed through the chasm. Mara spun around. Tell me that was just the wind. Jay's scanner beeped wildly. His face went pale. We're not alone. The watchers in the dark shapes emerged from the mist. Twisted, shifting shadows, their glowing red veins pulsing like dying ambers. The extinguished have found them. Ryland raised his blaster. Jace, get that door open now. Jace's fingers flew over the console, working on it. Mora fired first. Her blaster bolt hit one of the creatures square in the chest, but instead of falling, it absorbed the energy. The thing let out a horrible screech and lunged forward. Ryland cursed. They're adapting. He switched to impact rounds, solid ammunition. He fired, and the bullet tore through one of the creatures, making it righty and collapse into dust. That works, Mara shouted, switching her weapons mode. Jace gritted his teeth. I could use a little less shooting and a little more covering me right now. More creatures crawled from the shadows, their forms flickering and unstable. They weren't attacking mindlessly. They were waiting, watching, learning. The vault awakens. Jace let out a victorious yell. Got it. The vault rumbled as ancient gears began turning. Dust poured from its edges, and with a deep metallic groan, the door split open, revealing a dark corridor beyond. Ryland didn't hesitate. Inside now, the teen rushed through, and as soon as they cleared the entrance, Jace slammed his fist on the console, sealing the door shut behind them. A heavy boom echoed as the creatures outside let out furious screeches, clawing at the metal, but they couldn't get through. Silence fell. Mora leaned against the wall, breathing hard. That was way too close. Jace wiped sweat from his brow. You're telling me? Ron straightened and turned toward the corridor ahead. The air inside was thick with age, the walls lined with strange blue symbols glowing faintly in the dark. This place, Jace whispered, it's still active. Ryland stepped forward, his heart pounding. The Guardian had told them to find this vault, had died for them to get here. The question was why, and what were they about to uncover? The rusted relic emerges. Part 7. The corridor is stretched before them, dark and humming with unseen energy. The blue symbols along the walls pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat trapped in metal. Ryland led the way, his blaster gripped tightly. Mara and Jace followed close behind, their footsteps echoing in the hollow silence. This place gives me the creeps, Jace muttered, scanning the walls. It's too quiet. Mara nodded. If this was the Empire's last hope, where is everything? Shouldn't there be defenses, guards? Ryland didn't answer. He had the same uneasy feeling. Then the corridor opened up into a massive chamber, the core of the vault. The room was enormous, its ceiling lost in darkness. At the center stood a massive glass-like cylinder, filled with a swirling silver blue energy. Ancient machines surrounded it, still functioning despite the centuries. Jace's scanner beeped. This isn't a weapon. Ryland approached cautiously. Then, what is it? Jace's hand shook as he read the data. It's a memory core, a digital archive. Mara frowned. A database. Jace nodded, but not just any database. This thing, it holds the entire knowledge of the lost empire, every technological advancement, every secret project, every war strategy. If the extinguished get this, Ryland finished his sentence for him, they could wipe out whatever's left of the galaxy. A message from the past. The blue light inside the court flickered, and then a hologram appeared. It was an old man, dressed in high-ranking imperial robes. His face was worn with age, but his eyes were sharp and burning with purpose. "If you are seeing this," he spoke, his voice calm yet urgent, "then the Empire is fallen, and you are the last hope." Ryan, Mara, and Jace stood frozen. The hologram continued, "We created the Guardian to protect this knowledge, to ensure the extinguished would never reclaim it, but we failed. If the Guardian is no longer with you, then you must decide, does this knowledge live or must it be destroyed?" Mara inhaled sharply. "Destroyed?" Why? The hologram's face darkened. "The extinguished were once our own people, a failed experiment. We tried to make soldiers, being that could adapt, survive, never die. But we created something far worse." Jace's throat went dry. "They weren't just some ancient enemy. They were a mistake." The hologram continued, "They cannot be reasoned with, they cannot be stopped, but they can be contained. If you destroy this core, they will lose what they seek, and they will be weakened." The chamber trembled. A loud boom came from the sealed entrance. Maris spun around. "They found us. The final choice." Jace turned to Ryland. "We don't have time. We need to download what we can and run." Mara shook her head. "No, if we take this with us, they'll chase us forever. The Guardian gave its life to keep this out of their hands. We have to finish the job." Ryland stood in silence, staring at the glowing core. Knowledge like this could change the galaxy, but if it fell into the wrong hands, it could end it. The vault door cracked. The creatures forcing their way in. Red lights filled the chamber as alarms blared. They were seconds away from being overrun. Rand gritted his teeth and made his choice. He slammed his fist onto the control panel. The core flashed red, and a countdown appeared. Self-destruct sequence. Jace's eyes widened. "You just..." Ryland grabbed him by the arm. "No time. Move." The race against time. They sprinted back through the corridors as the vault shook violently. Machines exploded, sparks raining down around them. The creatures screeched in fury, their forms twisting in the flickering lights. The Iron Drake's ramp was already lowering as they'd reached the surface. Jace dived into the cockpit, powering the engines. The ground beneath them cracked, the entire vault collapsing as a wave of energy surged outward. The Iron Drake blasted off, escaping just as the mountain caved in, swallowing the vault and the extinct into a burning abyss. A new dawn silence filled the ship's cabin. Ryland slumped into a seat, breathing heavily. Mara stared out the window. "It's gone, all of it." Jace sat back, rubbing his face. "We just erased the last legacy of the Empire." Ryland exhaled. "No, we saved the future." The stars stretched before them, endless and unknown. The knowledge was lost, but so was the threat for now. Because somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the extinguished were still out there, and they would return. But when they did, humanity would be ready.